Okay, so you're here on the deep dive, and you know what that means, right?
We're going
deep. Today we're diving into something you use every single day. Telling time in English.
That's right. We're going to take all these different ways of talking about time and really break them down so you can feel totally comfortable using them.
Yeah, no more stressing over AM and PM or trying to figure out what quarter to actually means when you hear it. And we're basing this deep dive on a bunch of resources designed for English learners.
Yeah.
So we're really getting to the core of how to talk about time clearly.
Absolutely. We'll start with the fundamentals and then we'll see how it all works in real life. Scheduling meetings, catching flights, all that good stuff.
Perfect. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in and start with the very basics, the foundation of telling time. What do we see when we look at a clock? Usually numbers. So how do those numbers translate into spoken English?
All right, so let's say you see 3.00 on a digital clock. The most straightforward way to say that is 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that o'clock is what we use when it's right on the hour. Got it. But what about when the minutes aren't zero? What happens when we start getting into, 3.15 or 3.30?
Well, so when you see 3.15, you have a couple of options. You can say 3:15, which is super clear and direct.
3:15, yeah, that makes sense. But I feel like I also hear people say 3:15 a lot. What's going on there?
Exactly, 3:15, and that's because we're essentially dividing the hour into quarters. 15 minutes is 1/4 of an hour, so 3:15 means 15 minutes have passed since 3 o'clock.
Oh, I see. It's like slicing up the hour like a pie. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense. And then for 3.30, we could say 3:30, but I also hear 3:30.
Yes, 3:30, because 30 minutes is half of a 60-minute hour.
3:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're using these fractions, quarter and half, to talk about the portions of the hour that have passed.
Yeah.
So we're moving through the hour in these chunks. That's pretty cool.
It is, and it's super common in everyday English, so it's really good to be familiar with these expressions.
Absolutely. Now, what about when we get closer to the next hour? Let's say it's 4.45.
So with 4.45, again, you have options. You can say 4:45, which is perfectly fine. But we also have a way of expressing this that focuses on the time until the next hour.
Oh, interesting. So instead of looking at how much time has passed, we're thinking about how much time is left.
Exactly. So 4.45 can also be expressed as 4:45.
4:45. So again, we have that quarter representing 15 minutes, but this time we're using to show that we're approaching the next hour, like we're almost at 5 o'clock.
Exactly. 4:45 means there's a quarter of an hour left before it becomes 5 o'clock.
Okay. I think this is a good time to test our listeners a bit. Let's do a little pop quiz. Imagine you're looking at a digital clock and it says 4.45. What are the two ways you could say that time out loud? Take a second, think about it. All right, hopefully you came up with 4:45 and 4:45. And remember those little words past and to, they make a big difference in meaning.
They do. All right, so we've covered the basics of translating those digital numbers into spoken English, but there's another really important piece of the puzzle when it comes to telling time.
Right. How do we know if it's morning or night? How do we avoid showing up for breakfast at 8 p.m., enter AM and PM, the dynamic duo of timekeeping?
Exactly. AM and PM are crucial for distinguishing between different parts of the day. AM stands for antemeridium, which is Latin for before midday.
Ah, Latin. Fancy. So AM covers the time from midnight all the way up to noon, like the pre-lunch hours, you could say.
Exactly. So if you see 7 to 4 a.m., that would usually be said as 7 in the morning.
Is it in the morning? Okay, so adding that little phrase in the morning really clarifies things.
Absolutely. And then we have PM, which stands for post-meridium, meaning after midday.
So PM takes over at noon and runs all the way to midnight.
Yeah.
The post-lunch to bedtime hours.
Precisely. So 7 p.m. would typically be expressed as 7 in the evening.
7 in the evening. Yeah. So while you might be able to figure out from the context whether someone's talking about AM or PM, it's always a good idea to be super clear by saying in the morning or in the evening.
Absolutely. It prevents any potential for confusion or mix-ups, especially when you're making plans or appointments.
Okay, so we've got AM and PM down, but there's another system for telling time that we should talk about, the 24-hour clock, sometimes called military time.
Right. The 24-hour clock can seem a bit intimidating if you're not used to it, but it's actually quite logical once you understand the concept.
So how does it work? How is it different from the 12-hour clock with AM and PM?
Well, the 24-hour clock simply continues counting the hours after noon instead of resetting back to 1. So instead of 1 p.m., you have 1,300 hours, then 1,400 hours, and so on, all the way up to 2,400 hours or 0 hours for midnight.
Okay, so instead of having AM and PM, we just keep counting up. So 19.00, which would be 7 p.m. in the 12-hour clock, is 1900 hours in the 24-hour clock.
Precisely. And that 100 hours part is often added, especially in formal contexts like transportation schedules or the military.
Makes sense. So there's no need to worry about AM and PM because the hour itself tells you whether it's before or afternoon. But I've noticed that some people make a funny mistake when they're trying to convert 24-hour clock times back into spoken English.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes people try to directly translate the number and they'll say something like 15 o'clock.
15 o'clock. Yeah, like they're reading it straight off the 24-hour clock. But that's not how we actually speak, right?
Right. 15 o'clock is not something you'd hear in natural English conversation. The correct way to say it would be 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay, so we stick with the 12-hour format and use PM to indicate that it's afternoon. We wouldn't say things like 13 o'clock or 22 o'clock. It would be 1 p.m. and 10 p.m. respectively.
Exactly. That's how we actually speak, and it just sounds more natural and fluent.
Right. It's all about sounding like a native speaker. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how to translate digital time into spoken English. We've demystified AM and PM, and we've even tackled the 24-hour clock. But let's get real for a second. How does all of this knowledge actually help us in our daily lives?
That's a great question. It's all well and good to know the theory, but what really matters is how we apply this knowledge in real-world situations.
Exactly. Let's talk about some practical scenarios.
All right, so imagine you're scheduling a meeting. Being able to clearly communicate the time is crucial. If you say, let's meet at 10:30 a.m., there's no ambiguity. Everyone knows you're talking about 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that clarity is so important. It can save you a lot of trouble and wasted time, especially if you're coordinating with people in different time zones.
Absolutely. Another common situation where knowing how to tell time is essential is when you're traveling.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you're at an airport or a train station and you hear an announcement saying your departure is 5:45, you need to be able to instantly understand that means 5:45.
Exactly. 5:45 means there's 15 minutes left before 6 o'clock. Misunderstanding that could mean missing your flight or train.
Yeah, that could definitely ruin your travel plans. And it's not just about understanding the time, it's also about being able to ask for the time. What if you don't have your phone or a watch handy?
In that situation, the most common and polite way to ask for the time is, "Excuse me, do you have the time?"
Excuse me, do you have the time? That's great. Everyone should have in their English vocabulary.
Absolutely. It's simple, direct, and universally understood.
So there you have it. We've gone from the very basics of translating digital time all the way to real-life scenarios like scheduling meetings, catching flights, and asking for the time. Hopefully you're feeling much more confident about navigating the world of time in English.
And remember, mastering this seemingly small aspect of English can have a big impact on your daily life. It helps you manage your time better, it improves your communication skills, and it boosts your overall confidence when you're interacting in English.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to ponder. How often do we actually think about the concept of time in our daily conversations and interactions? It's everywhere. And being able to communicate clearly and accurately about time can open up so many opportunities.
It's true. Whether it's making that important business meeting or simply catching up with a friend, being able to talk about time confidently and effectively is a valuable skill. It allows you to connect with others and navigate the world around you with ease.
And as you continue your English language journey, pay attention to how time is referenced in the content you consume. Notice the phrases use the context in which they're used. It's fascinating how this seemingly basic skill plays such a fundamental role in communication.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep diving deeper into the nuances of the English language.
And until next time, happy timekeeping.